Good day, comrades and friends. This is Dr. Gabe Roberts, the quantum chiropractor, the subconscious healer, new thought minister, and your expert in energy medicine. I'm a minister, doctor of metaphysics, doctor of chiropractic, a clinical hypnotherapist, a functional medicine practitioner, and a self sabotage coach. My specialty is working digitally with people who suffer from psychosomatic illnesses such as autoimmune, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, digestive disturbances, digestive illnesses, and a host of many kinds of mystery conditions, which all have at their deepest root repressed emotions. Why do some people seem to suffer from illness while others do not seem to have any effect at all? Whether it's microbial, whether it's toxins, whether it's emotional triggers from other people attempting to provoke them. Is there some underlying force that prevents certain people from attracting disease when they can be doing seemingly harmful lifestyle habits, while others who are trying to be healthy on the surface, drinking smoothies and vegetables and exercising, eating clean foods, and yet still somehow they develop cancer? What would be the answer for these scenarios? The most likely grounds is that there's an emotional side that that person hasn't dealt with. There's an underlying truth that hasn't yet surfaced and has been able to be glimpsed by the conscious awareness, leaving it completely unknown and unresolved. Complete liberation from developing illness never comes from an outside force, from a treatment or an exercise or a supplement or a pharmaceutical or the right doctor's recommendation. Liberation from illness only comes from getting to know yourself and becoming totally aware of who you are. The point where this pivotal change lies is precisely discovering that people's life is manufactured stories that they tell themselves. To get them to actually see what stories they're telling themselves unconsciously, what their beliefs are, what identity they associate themselves with, and guide them to a new possibility of letting go of the old narrative or releasing the hold that the old narrative has on them. Very often, these subconscious narratives are attempts to get away from pain, escape it or not feel it. And these attempts to escape this are the basic cause of all illness. All illnesses are physiological, whether they're an identified illness such as autoimmune, neurological illnesses like multiple sclerosis, or chronic skin conditions, or digestive illnesses. These all have unresolved and unrecognized emotional underpinnings. There's no such thing as an emotionally healthy person who has any type of chronic illness. It just does not exist. In my experience, these underpinnings are deeply rooted in a person's childhood. The building blocks of our identity, which is our deepest part of our subconscious mind, are formed at ages 0 to 6 years old. When I do hypnotherapy work and I do all kinds of different types of energy healing work, whether it's quantum integration or whether it's bioenergetic synchronization technique, otherwise known as BEST, these years of 0 to 6 begin to form the templates for who these people become. And when I work with people, like a 40-year-old woman who has severe chronic pain, and she's scheduled with me through a Zoom appointment. And during this time, I give her a few very simple instructions to get her to begin to kind of regress and then ask her about the feelings that she has, the ones that she doesn't like, that has everything to do with why we're meeting together through the computer. And as I begin to take her all the way back to the first scene or circumstance leading to why she's here today, and suddenly what starts to come out of her mouth, what she begins to talk about at age 5, has absolutely nothing to do with all her pain she's had forever. It was a stuck traumatic memory in her holographic mind. You see, our minds do not function in a linear fashion. That's why functional medicine and conventional care doesn't work, because 95% of the time, the psyche of why that person attracted illness into their life in the first place is not addressed. And they may have temporary relief, they may have improvements on lab tests or whatever, but before too long, the illness will return without fail. I mean, there's very few exceptions to that. This is something I've had my own experience with on a very, very deep level. People often ask me, why are you called the subconscious healer? Or how did you get to be called the subconscious healer? Well, it's not something I chose to do, as it is more or less what I was chosen to do. You see, I come from a background of a very traumatic childhood filled with alcohol and rage, abuse, anger, including physical batterings, emotional neglect of the love, which is something necessary for children to have to flourish properly. And through all this, I carried a tremendous stamp in my subconscious mind most of my life, a stamp of colossal pain, of agony, of internal suffering. And this led me to do all kinds of chaotic behavior when I was younger. Drugs, every kind of drug you can imagine, and a variety of very destructive habits. I kind of, at my wits' end, wanted to escape my environment, so I joined the Marines to build a clean slate. And this did help me with getting my head on straight and begin to develop myself professionally. But the subconscious damage was already done. I had a chaotic marriage years after that, and I was completely aware of the turmoil within my unconscious mind and didn't know what to do and didn't know how to fix it. Later, years later, I was drawn into nutrition and energy work, where I earned my doctorate in chiropractic, specializing in emotional clearing techniques and functional medicine. During this course of time, I was also blessed to find a woman who's my current wife, who was gifted herself and knew how to bring out the better parts of me, which were buried deep. Now, although this was all very helpful, it did not reach nearly as deep and address that template, which was the root of all of it from ages 0 to 6. Again, I could not find anything to improve the running dialogue within my own head or addressed a much bigger issue of my subconscious, which was filled with chaos and pain. See, the little voice is a very tiny part of our subconscious. The little voice that right now is going, what little voice? However, the most dominant thoughts you have are little fragments of consciousness which play on an endless loop. And they're actually stored in the neurology of your body. And these come out as physical feelings. Without any conscious effort, they're running all the time, always operating, and you're always adding more to them because most people just don't know how to operate their mind properly. I certainly didn't, and it showed. Your body does want you to be happy, but the subconscious mind is terrified of deviating away from the familiar template. So, if at age 0 to 6, you had a chaotic template formed from the environment you were raised in, and then you later develop into an adult, you'll notice that there's still chaotic patterns in your life, even if they are leading to self destruction. If your mind and body has to choose between keeping you in the familiar or letting you choose a happier, healthier lifestyle choices, what will it choose? It will always choose the familiar. Again, because that's the template. This is where techniques that address the subconscious, such as hypnotherapy, are very powerful and are actually much more powerful than any kind of emotional clearing techniques, whether it's flower essences or various other methods which are out there. I use a specific trademark technique, which is the hypnotherapy equivalent to nuclear weapons and atomic bombs, called holographic manipulation. Because see, what's interesting about a hologram is that if I break that familiar 3D image into pieces and I observe one tiny piece of it, the entire image is inside of that. Every fragment of a hologram contains the entire thing. We are associated with trauma. If this occurs in our life, it automatically connects to all events and circumstances which occurred during that one specific memory and formed a template, and we can turn it into a much more harmonious and peaceful one. Studying the mind for years and specializing in techniques that change and resolve conflict in the unconscious mind has not only helped me fully resolve all of my emotional pain and regain valuable rapport with my subconscious, but also has allowed me to understand the sources of other people's pain. I was consumed with finding a way to resolve my own suffering at the subconscious level, and have found throughout the years that many other people want this too. One way to begin planting new ideas in our mind is a very simple way you can start now: writing out positive thoughts on paper. Writing something down at least 55 to 60 times is what makes it begin to impress into the subconscious mind. And if you click on the link below, you'll receive a free download of the ebook, Empowering the Spirit Within. And this is filled with spiritual lifting phrases and interactive affirmations, not just affirmations, but affirmations that are interactive. And reviewing these and begin the writing out positive words, this action alone is much more powerful than just thinking or even reading alone, because you're getting your body involved. And remember, the neurology is what stores that. And whenever you begin to get your body involved, this action alone creates new patterns within the neurology. Go to my page, Dr. Gabe Roberts, like it, or tag a friend, as I continue to go into the depths on the mind, how it works, and show you that the greatest part of you is something that you'll never see.